Hello everybody, and welcome to my new and improved guide of how I get my Sims 3 game to run smoothly. 2 years ago, I published the Ultimate Sims 3 Fix Guide. Since the release of that video, a lot of things have changed about how we fix and handle Sims 3 game lag, and admittedly, I've learned a lot. Some parts of that video are redundant, other parts don't work, and many parts have become a lot more streamlined and easier to someone that has little to no tech savviness, hence the release of this video. This video was made in conjunction with Anime Boom's amazing Sims 3 Steam guide in an effort to bring more visibility to truly how easy it is to fix The Sims 3 nowadays. I received permission to use their guide as a reference in this video. If you want to check out the guide, there is a link at the top of the Google Doc linked in the description box below. All resources shown in this video will be linked on there for your convenience. Matching your graphics card. Have you ever gotten this message upon launching The Sims 3? That's because your graphics card isn't in The Sims 3's database. As The Sims 3 is an older game, many newer graphics cards aren't recognized and databased in the game's files. 2 years ago, we had to manually do this process, adjusting values and typing things in a notepad in order to match the graphics card. It was really annoying. But nowadays, a member of the Sims 3 community has created an easy-to-use graphics card matcher tool. So this is the Sims 3 GPU support tool. It is really great. It's hosted here on NRAAS Mods, which if you have installed mods for any other game, usually they are hosted on this website. You may know this website if you install Stardew Valley mods. You have to make an account to download mods from here. I think you can log in with your Google, so that's what I did. It's just really simple. Also, I do believe that this website virus scans the creators before they upload their files, so don't worry about any viruses or anything like that. We're just going to come over here once you make an account to the manual download button, and it's going to require that you have some of these Microsoft frameworks. If the tool isn't opening when you install it, just make sure you have these 3 frameworks here, but I have them, so we're just going to hit download. It's going to pop us open into the files tab, and we're going to go to slow download. It's then going to download the tool. I have all my downloads pointing to my downloads folder here on my computer. I'm going to right click on the GPU add-on once it is installed. I'm going to just click extract all, extract, and then it's going to open right on up here. After that, I am going to right click on the GPU add-on tool, and I'm going to do the little scissors, or if you're on Windows, it should say cut. And just to keep things tidy, I like to put my GPU add-on tool here in my Sims 3 electronic arts folder in my documents. And I'm just going to go ahead and paste it. I already have it in here, so I'm just going to replace it. After that, we're going to just double click, and this is going to ask you for administrator privileges. Oh, and also this is going to pop up. This is just popping up because it doesn't recognize the creator. Obviously, this is made by a simmer, by a not well-known developer, so Microsoft is just trying to protect you. Your computer is just trying to protect you. So we're just going to hit more info. I promise you this is safe. I've used it many times myself. We're going to hit run anyway, and it's going to ask me for administrator privileges. I'm going to hit yes. After that, it is going to say detect 2 graphics vendors. Mine is saying 2, yours may only say 1. This is because I have an integrated graphics card on my CPU. Make sure that whatever graphics card you have, whether it's AMD or NVIDIA, make sure that it is popping up in here. Yours also may have, you may also have Intel if you are running on Intel graphics. Mine are found though, so I'm going to hit yes, and it's going to say you can apply this patch if it is supported. My graphics card was supported. Now you want to make sure that this program is recognizing where your Sims 3 game is. As you can see, I have mine here on my F drive. If I come here to my F drive, you can see my game is installed right here. If you don't know where your game is installed, you can come down to your search and just type in The Sims 3 and hit open file location. This will open where the game is. If you have The Sims 3 on EA app like I do, you can come to manage, view properties, install location, and you can hit browse, and this will pop the window open exactly where you installed it. I don't have the game on Steam, so I'm using Stardew Valley as an example, but this works for The Sims 3 as well. If you come to the little gear right here, you can left click on it, go to Manage and browse local files. This will also pop the game open exactly where you have it installed on your computer. And what you can do now is go to the address bar up here. Obviously, yours would say The Sims 3, not Stardew Valley, but you can just right click on it, hit copy, and just grab this whole address. And if we go back into the Sims 3 GPU add-on support tool, there's going to be this little cursor blinking bar type of picture. It's not blinking, but you get the gist. If you left click on it, it's going to open up this address bar. We can just highlight and paste what we just copied. So yours would say Steam, Steam Apps, Common, The Sims 3, and then you can just hit save on that. And all we have to do now is just hit apply on this. And it says patch the graphics card and rules. That's it. That's all we have to do. We can close this up. We are done. Allotting the game more CPU. I stumbled across this Reddit post that stated that you can change the game's CPU amounts in order to trick the game to send more Sims to community lots. I've never verified this, but I do think they may be onto something. This may not be recommended for PCs with low-end CPUs or PCs that aren't meant for gaming, as sending more Sims to a community lot can cause crashes and add to lag. However, if you ever had a problem where there weren't too many Sims on a lot or you wanted more Sims to show up, then this could potentially be the fix of said issue, though this has never been verified to actually lead to more Sims being drawn to a lot. At any rate, I am going to go to my Sims 3 install location. I'm just going to go to my desktop icon and click open file location. If you're wondering why my Sims 3 icon looks like this, it is because of a mod that we will get into shortly. Here in my Sims 3 directory, I'm going to go up to the view button here, and this is going to be different if you're on Windows 10, though it should be like in this same area. You might have to poke around a little bit, but on Windows 11, I'm going to come down here to show and check on file name extensions. This is going to bring up, so all the files have their .exes, their .inis or inis, their .cfgs, all those file name extensions will now be turned on. In this directory, we're going to find a file that says graphicsrules.sgr. You may have one that says graphicsrules_old.sgr. We can delete these, both graphicscards._old.sgr and graphicsrules_old.sgr. These were created because we use the graphics add-on support tool, and they aren't doing anything floating around in here, so we can just get rid of them. Do not get rid of graphicsrules.sgr though. We want to keep this one. In here, we're gonna right click on graphicsrules.sgr and we're gonna go down to open with Notepad, and right on the top here there is going to be the SETI CPU level Uber, SETI CPU level high, medium, and low. By default, these values are set to 4, 3, 2, and 1, but we are going to change them to 4, which is good, 3, which is good, and then we're going to change the 2 to a 3 and the 1 to a 3, so it should read 4, 3, 3, 3. After this, we can come up here to File, Save, and then just close that right up. If when you just tried to save what we changed here and it's giving you a you cannot save this, you don't have admin permissions or whatever, what we can do is come up here to File, Save As. I'm just going to go ahead and put this on my desktop and save it as is. Now we can close up our old file that we just edited, but of course, obviously make sure you do save as to your desktop. And now I should have this right here. Okay, so what we can do is open up our Sims 3 bin folder where we just had our graphicsrules.sgr file, and just drag and drop that right on in. It's going to ask you if you want to replace it. You can hit replace. I'm not going to do it because mine saved just fine, but that's how you would go ahead and save this file if it's claiming you don't have permissions. Also, just double check that, as I mentioned, you turn on file name extensions, because this file, in order for The Sims 3 to work, needs to be, the type of file needs to be an SGR file. And you can just go right click on graphics rules, show more options, and hit properties, and that will show you what type of file this is. Make sure it did not save as a .txt file. You want to make sure this stays as a .sgr file, so that file name extension needs to specifically be a .sgr file in order for the Sims 3 to work. Intel Alder Lake patch. In the middle of editing this video, after 10 years of not receiving a patch, EA app users actually received a fix for this very issue. This step will only be for Steam users. Steam users, as of recording this video, have not received this patch. If you know that you have an Intel CPU, then you are going to need to do this next step. If you don't know if you have an Intel CPU, what you can do is come down here to the magnifying glass, type in system information and click on open. Here in system information, we're going to look for processor. If it says that you have an Intel CPU or an Intel processor, then you need to do this next step. If you have a Ryzen CPU or something else, then you can completely skip this step because you don't need it. Here on Mod The Sims, there is something called an Intel Alder Lake patch. Intel Alder Lake is the codename for the 12th generation and later of Intel Core processors. I have a 13th gen Intel processor, so I have to apply this patch. If you have a 12th generation Intel Alder Lake processor, the game won't even launch for you. Like, it'll just close right to your desktop. But the lovely creator Lazy Duchess, my one and only saving grace, we will feature many Lazy Duchess mods in this video, has created a fix for this. We're gonna go here to the download tab on Mod The Sims and just download the Alder Lake patch. Here are my downloads. I'm just going to extract the patch that I just installed. It's gonna open right up and we're just gonna run the Alder Lake patch.exe. Once again, we're going to get a "we do not recognize the creator or publisher of this program. Don't worry, this is safe." We're going to say yes to the permissions. It's going to say locate the executable you wish to patch. It brought me right to my Sims 3 directory. As this step is only for Steam users, we are all going to patch ts3w.exe. And it says executable patch successfully, created a backup, and we're just going to hit OK. So now your game will be able to launch if you have a 12th generation Intel CPU or later. The Sims 3 Smoothness Patch. If there's any mod in this video that is going to completely change the way that you play The Sims 3 and how it runs, it's the Sims 3 Smoothness Patch. I have made many a video on my channel about this fantastic mod, but this is made by the one and only Lazy Duchess. To begin this, we need to make sure we have a mods folder. This is how we're going to install many of the fixes that are featured in this video. On Mod The Sims, there's actually a folder that they will give you. We just scroll down here and go to download. We can right click on it and click save link as. I'm just going to save this to my desktop. It says insecure download blocked. We're just going to keep it. Don't worry, this is on Mod The Sims. It is safe. After that, I'm just going to double click on this and open it with File Explorer. And here is our little mods folder right here. Isn't she cute? We're going to right click on her and click cut. And in our documents folder, we're going to go to electronic arts, The Sims 3. And in this folder, we're just going to click on the blank space to the right and paste the mods folder that we downloaded. Why we need this folder from Mod The Sims is because it contains a very important file called resource.cfg. And looking further in here, it also includes two really nice mods: No Intro, which will skip the Sims 3 really long intro, and No Build Sparkles, which just removes little sparkles when you place it on walls in the Sims 3. You can delete these files and they won't do anything, but we do need to keep the resource.cfg file. That's why we have to install this folder from the Mod The Sims post here. Back to talking about the Sims 3 Smoothness Patch though, this mod does so much. And if you really fine tune this and change the values here in this text file, which we will get into, it can seriously change the amount of lag that is in this game. It really minimalizes it. Some of the things that it does is the creative style clothes are now loaded in as you scroll rather than staggered, which really improves creative sim performance. Creative style will no longer get locked up and become unusable when loading patterns. Creative style drag and drop has been optimized, making it a lot smoother, and certain creative sim audio quirks such as music or voices sometimes not being played are fixed. Okay, great. Now how do we install it? Based on if you have the game on Origin/EA app, or you have retail discs or Steam, it's going to differ. I have Origin, so I would therefore use this method, but if you have Steam or discs or other ways, then you are going to use this method down here. If we go to the download tab, I would therefore use this download TS3 patch EA, because this is for EA app or Origin. If you have discs in Steam, you are going to download it this way with this file, TS3 patch 10. Make sure you do not install TSM because that's for The Sims Medieval, and we're fixing The Sims 3 today, but if you do play The Sims Medieval, Smoothness Patch also works on there. With that said, I'm going to download TS3 patch EA. It's going to come up here to my downloads, and no matter if you installed Steam or Origin, we're all going to install it in our Sims 3 directory. So I'm going to go and find my Sims 3 directory by just right-clicking on my desktop icon, clicking open file location, and this will bring me directly to where I have to go. For this step, make sure this is not going in your Sims 3 documents folder, electronic arts, and make sure it's not in here. It has to be in your Sims 3 install directory. I'm going to move these windows side by side so I can kind of see what's going on. I'm just going to double click on the Smoothness Patch files we just installed, and I'm going to grab these 4 files right here: ts3patch.asi, ts3patch.txt, ts3patch.cfg, and ts3patch.exe. We can leave the packages file in here for a second. I'm going to right click on these 4 files. I'm just going to cut them, and I'm going to paste them directly in my Sims 3 install directory. I already have these files in here, so mine's going to say replace, but you can just paste yours right in here. Staying in this install directory, we're going to adjust the values that the Sims 3 Smoothness Patch uses. They're set on default right now, and we want to change that. So we're going to need to go down to this ts3patch.txt. We're just going to open it right up with Notepad. This is where our settings are going to differ a little bit. TPS is ticks per second, which is defined as the speed of processing logic, aka how The Sims 3 processes the game. 500 is what Smoothness Patch has set as the default, but I have a high-end gaming computer, so I'm gonna up this value to 1000. As you can see here, Lazy Duchess has noted can work even better, especially on decent computers. 500 TPS works okay for most computers. Judging on your computer specs, you can either choose to leave this at 500 or crank it up to 1000. I like to squeeze every last bit of ability out of my computer, so I up it. Next, we have FPS limit, which limits the amount of frames you wish to get. This is crucial. The Sims 3 can spike up to 1000 frames at times, which is crazy and should not be doing that, but the game doesn't have a built-in FPS limiter, so thankfully Smoothness Patch has included that. I have a 144 Hz monitor, which means I'm only gonna ever be able to get up to 144 frames at a time. You may have a 60 frames or 60 Hz monitor, which means that you should set this value to 60. Definitely don't leave this uncapped though. I want to add, a while ago an experiment was done running 30 FPS versus 60 FPS, and the results were kind of shocking. So this is from a lovely mutual of mine named Acid Lure, and Acid writes, not sure if it's just my game, but I found that limiting Sims 3 to 30 FPS will reduce build mode and create a style lag. With 60 FPS, which mind you is what most games use, 60 FPS, the game kept stuttering and moving create a style tool colors was a pain. With 30 FPS, the game was less stuttery and moving create a style tools was easier. So if we go in here, we can actually see, here's the example that Acid did with 60 FPS, and as you can see, it's not buttery smooth. The camera's kind of jittering around a little bit, but then Acid is also going to show us what this looks like with 30 FPS. And the game actually, I think it's because it's probably an older game, would be my assumption, but it ran a lot better when Acid locked it to 30 FPS. So we're still here on 60 FPS. You can see it's really just, it's hard to move the creative style tools around. Dragging things over is, you know, stuttering and laggy. And here's what the game looked like when Acid locked it to 30 FPS. You can see it's so much smoother here. The camera rotations are just buttery smooth, buttery soft. It really does work a lot better when you lock the game to 30 FPS. And once again, it's probably because the game was made, you know, way back in 2009, where we didn't have readily accessible 144 Hz monitors, which is what most most like gaming computers and gaming laptops nowadays uses 144 hertz. Of course, a lot of people still have 60 hertz, 60 FPS, but anyway, for whatever reason, I don't think we ever got like a definitive answer of why it runs so much better on 30 FPS. Yeah, so if you just wanted to come in here, this is circling back to the Sims 3 Smoothness Patch. If you wanted to lock your game to 30, you would just type 30 here, but you have to remember 30 FPS, if it even dips below even a couple of FPS, you are going to notice that lag. When a game dips from 30 FPS to 29 FPS, even losing one frame, you notice it. It is laggy. Next up is borderless. I really like to be able to tab in and out of my games. I do change this to borderless, so we're gonna just put a 1 for borderless. Next up, this will shoot you a debug message just to make sure the mod is working. I know how to install this mod, so when I first started using it, I did have this on, but I just turned it off now. And this is going to depend on if this mod is failing to load. So maybe if you're new to this mod or you never installed Smoothness Patch before, you can change debug message to 1 just to make sure it's turning on. And if it is failing to turn on, then you can add this delay. I have never needed to use it, so I'm just going to leave both of these on 0, but you need to make sure that this is working in the first place. And if it is failing to work, then you can add some delay. Now, this is something new that came with Smoothness Patch 2.0. The advanced section. Once again, this is more resource intensive, so if you don't have a great PC to begin with, maybe leave this on 0, but I'm going to turn this to a 1 because, as I mentioned, I like to squeeze every little bit of performance as I can out of my computer. With that said, I'm going to come up here to File and hit Save, and then I can just close all these windows. After that, I'm going to also close my Sims 3 directory up, and you should now be left with the Smoothness Patch files we installed a little bit ago from Mod The Sims. There's going to be one last folder in here that I didn't touch upon. Packages. In the beginning of this video, I showed you guys how to install a mods folder, so please go back and do that if you don't already have one. If you don't know if you have a mods folder, you can go to your documents, electronic arts, The Sims 3, and you should have a mods folder in here. At any rate, I am going to go back to my Smoothness Patch package files. In my own game, I don't have these files in here. It's because I use a thing called NRAAS Master Controller Compact Mode. These two files are what are creating the staggered in loading in Create a Sim. If you do not use NRAAS Master Controller Compact Mode, which I'll get to later in this video, then you are going to go ahead and right click on these two files. We're going to hit copy. I'm going to go into my packages and just paste those two files that were in here in the Smoothness Patch right into my packages folder in my mods. Okay, now this last step is crucial. We have to do this in order to use the Sims 3 Smoothness Patch. You can no longer launch the game by your desktop icon. I know this says The Sims 2, but imagine I had a Sims 3 icon on my desktop. We can no longer launch the game through that. We can no longer launch the game through the play button too on Steam or Origin, or EA app. Sorry, it's not Origin anymore, it's EA app. What we actually have to do is go to our Sims 3 installed directory once again. So I'm gonna go to the Sims 3 game bin, and this is where I have to be. When we installed the Sims 3 Smoothness Patch, there was one file that we need in order to launch the game, and it's ts3patchlauncher.exe. We're gonna double click on this. It's gonna ask me for administrator privileges. I'm just gonna click yes. And then the Sims 3 should launch your launcher with Smoothness Patch. After that, you should be able to play the game like normal and launch it. Because it's kind of annoying to navigate to this folder every single time, we can right click on our ts3patchlauncher.exe icon. On Windows 11, I'm going to click show more options, but on Windows 10, I think it's just right there. And we can go to send to desktop, and this will actually create a shortcut to this exe that we have to do in order to launch our game every single time we play The Sims 3 from here on out. If not having your Sims 3 logo really bothers you, you can actually right click on this. You can go to show more options and then go down to properties, and you can actually change your game icon to something completely different if you wanted to. So if I go here to change icon, we can choose whatever we want. So I could choose, let's say, a star. If I wanted my icon to now be a star, I can change it to a star. Or you can also go online and find a .ico file of The Sims 3 and just replace it. So I just googled sims3.ico and this website brought it up, and I'm just gonna download the .ico file. I'm gonna go here to change icon, browse, and I could just browse to that file I just downloaded, hit OK and apply, and then it will change my Sims 3 icon back to what it was. And you can do the same for the name. If having a weird .exe name bothers you, you can just change it to The Sims 3 and then everything will be good. It's back to normal and everything is usable. Here we go. My launcher still opens up all nice. If you're playing on EA app or Origin, I would highly recommend getting Lazy Duchess's Sims 3 launcher. It works really well in conjunction with Smoothness Patch, and it allows me to search things in my Sims 3 launcher, which is really great. And once again, this is only for EA app and Origin. It really is a fantastic mod, and it lets you locate CC really easily that you may want to get rid of. Now, if I launch my Sims 3 game here, it should open right up and I should be able to tab in and out really easily. This is because of the windowed borderless. Rather than completely closing the game out, it will now let me just tab. Oh, I just love window borderless. I don't like that the Sims 3 natively doesn't have borderless, so that was a must. But if you notice, the icons are loading in super smooth. The progress bar is also smooth as well, and menus are just incredibly smooth. Like it's like butter. It's honestly like butter. I love Smoothness Patch so much. That was a lot of steps. A lot of things can go wrong in this process, so if Smoothness Patch didn't work or open for you, or if it isn't exactly working as it should, then I'm going to refer you to Lazy Duchess's personal Discord, where you can get first-hand help for Lazy Duchess supported mods such as Smoothness Patch. I can also try and help you in the comments, but no promises. Regul Save Cleaner. One of my favorite little tips and tricks is Regul Save Cleaner. I feel like this mod is seriously so underrated. I have a whole video dedicated to this mod because I feel like it really needed it. But this mod allows you to basically cleanse the deep in-game files. It allows you to regenerate lot thumbnails, regenerate photos, regenerate generated images like prom images. It allows you to regenerate family portraits, regenerate character portraits, regenerate lot thumbnails, regenerate the in-game catch, all with one button. On the Mod The Sims posting here, I'm gonna go to the download tab and I'm just gonna go ahead and download Regul Save Cleaner Windows. I'm running on Windows. It also works on Mac, which is great. I feel like Mac often gets neglected in these kind of fixed things, but luckily this program is on Mac. By the way, I should mention you cannot use the native Windows unpacker. You need something like 7-zip or WinRAR in order to unzip this file. I'm gonna go here in my downloads to the zip we just installed. I'm gonna right click on it and I'm gonna open it with WinRAR. When I do this, it's going to give me a folder which I can just go into my electronic arts, and I'm just gonna go and drag this. So this is not the folder where The Sims 3 is on my documents. It's like the folder above where electronic arts is, because I like to keep things tidy and all together. You have to extract this. This will not work if you try to run it in the zip. As mentioned on the Mod The Sims posting, you have to extract this and unzip it. I can now close this up. So I'm gonna go ahead and just run this exe, the Regul Save Cleaner.exe, and this brings up this really nice interface where it shows all of my families. If your families aren't showing up in here, you may need to go ahead and point the Regul Save Cleaner program to wherever your game is. So it's gonna ask you to the path to The Sims 3, which is that documents folder we're in right now. And then it's also going to ask you the path to your saves, which if you go into The Sims 3 and then come down here to saves, this is where this should be. Luckily, my program recognized my folders right off the bat, but if we come down here to cleaning options, we can do a variety of things like removing family portraits, removing portraits of Sims. If you click on the eye here, by the way, it pops open a window of what all of this stuff does. Some of these things are classified as experimental, like removing the textures and removing other types, which is like clearing memories and stuff like that. I do the basic stuff when I use this program, like removing family portraits and removing portraits of Sims. And then I also let the program clear out my cache. So I'm going to check this on. And you can also create a backup, which I highly recommend doing. So if I were to say clean this family, it would then create a backup. I just have to choose a path of where I want to put it. So I'm going to go ahead and clean out this family. This family lives in Bridgeport, so you can only begin to assume how much bloat there probably is in that town. So we're going to start cleaning and we're going to see how much it removes. Okay, so the original file size was 48 megabytes. The new size, which removed 11 megabytes, 21% of the save. And this shows everything that it sort of cleaned and cleansed and all that stuff. I don't want to scroll through it because we're going to be here all day, but 21% of the save it cleaned. So this program really goes to show if you use this on a super large family file, you can only imagine how much it will remove. And I would do this periodically, maybe once every couple sim weeks, in order to keep my save nice and healthy. Error codes like error code 12 or error code 16. After you've been playing The Sims 3 for a while, you may experience an error code whilst trying to save the game. There's a ton of error codes for The Sims 3, as you can see here, and I can't cover all of them because we would be here all day. The most common one that people will probably get is error code 12, which has to do with the save file being too big or there being insufficient RAM for the game to save. Unfortunately, at this point, there's really nothing else you can do besides just quit the game and kind of take your losses. I've also heard some people say that using save as may work. However, if that doesn't work, then it kind of sucks because you may have just lost hours and hours of game progress. To mitigate this further, what you can do is actually go to the previous chapter in this video, Regul Save Cleaner, and this will solve all your issues with error code 12. You need to make sure that you're using Regul Save Cleaner actively once every couple of sim weeks, and you should not run into this problem. As far as save error 16, this occurs because of a file system failure, which can occur if you try to overwrite a file in use or a file that is corrupt. So using save as in this scenario with a new name should solve the issue. NRAAS Mods. This next section is going to be all about NRAAS mods that help and improve your game performance. If you don't know what NRAAS is, it is basically a series of mods upkept by a modder named Chain Reaction. They are notorious in the Sims 3 community because NRAAS suite of mods lets you get access to quote-unquote developer tools, things that the player normally wouldn't have access to. This includes things like editing Sims right then and there without having to swap over to their household and take them to a mirror, changing the amount of Sims you have in town, resetting all the Sims in town, playing with genetics, adding occult life stages to Sims. As you can tell, this is a bunch of developer sort of behind the scenes tools. However, included in NRAAS mods is settings that you can change that will cut down on the amount of Sims that are spawned unnecessarily in The Sims 3. The Sims 3 tends to overspawn things like service Sims, stray animals, tourists, and so on and so forth. In this section of the video, I will show you all of the settings in NRAAS that you can add to help improve game performance that for whatever reason EA didn't natively cap in their final releases of The Sims 3. The first thing I want to show has to do with Create a Sim, and in order to get this menu to pop up, you have to have the base mod of NRAAS Master Controller, but then I think you also need the NRAAS Master Controller Cheats add-on module. So you'll need both of those in order to get this edit and cast button to pop up so you can just take Sims right into Create a Sim when you see them in the world. At any rate, if I come down to the three dots on the bottom left here and I right click on it, it's going to open up this hidden menu for Create a Sim, and this is from Master Controller. There's going to be a couple of settings in here that we want to turn to true. I already have them on true, but let me show you what they look like when they are on false. Here in my Sims 3 clothing catalog, as you can see, the game loads 3 swatches of each shirt. This causes the game to take a while to load every single swatch. Within NRAAS Master Controller, if I come down to these 3 dots again and right click on it, there's a setting that says show in compact form clothing. If I hit true on this, I have to swap categories really quickly so that it reloads. loads, note how the game is now loading one swatch of every single shirt rather than loading the 3 that it was before. It loads so much faster, especially if you have a lot of mods and custom content like me, and also I have almost every pack enabled. This makes things so much faster. And if you're saying to yourself, well, now I don't have the swatches to choose from, if you click on whatever shirt you want to put on, come to the little painter's palette, you still have these 3 swatches located in the top left. They're just not loaded when you go through this scroll menu. This makes things load so much faster. You can also do this if we come back down here to our settings. You can do this with your accessories, because accessories will also load 3 swatches at a time. Like you can see here, I have 3 glasses shades loading, 3 frames of these glasses loading. This mask is loading 3 times. So if I come down here and turn show in compact form to accessories to true, as you can see, those swatches are only loading once and everything is loading so much faster. Last but not least, the last compact form we have in here is hats. I don't personally use many hats in my game, but if you do, then you can show them in compact form and it will only load one swatch now. Earlier in the video, I mentioned during our Smoothness Patch installation, we installed 2 files that go in your packages folder. If you intend to use Master Controller Compact Mode, as I have talked about it here, then you have to delete and remove these 2 files. They are not compatible with NRAAS Compact Mode. You either have to choose to use NRAAS Compact Mode, as I've shown it here, or you have to use the clothing loaded in as you scroll that is included with Smoothness Patch. They are not compatible. Personally, I prefer the NRAAS Compact Mode route. I like that it only loads one swatch. Another cool little tip and trick I can give you guys about Master Controller that is in that same menu is having multiple accessories per category. As you can see here, my Sim Celeste has 2 earrings on. Ordinarily in The Sims 3, you cannot stack earrings like I just had it. You are only allotted 1 earring per category. So there's the earring category, there's the eyeglass category. You cannot stack these accessories on top of each other. If I try to choose this spiky earring and then I try to stack it with, let's say, these dangly earrings, do you see how it takes one off and prioritizes the other? With this setting, multiple accessories per location, if we turn that to true in our NRAAS Master Controller cast menu, I can now stack as many earrings as I want. I can have 50 pairs of earrings on at the same time, and this carries over not to just the earrings category, but also necklaces. If I try to stack multiple necklaces as well, I can do that, as many as humanly possible, and so on and so forth. So you can stack all of these accessories, which is really great with that single setting. There's also that same setting for the multiple makeup per location, which does the same exact thing. So you can now, for example, have both a eyeliner on. So if I put this eyeliner on my sim, it won't take off the eyeliner when I also then try to apply eyelashes. So she does have both on at the same time, which is really great because it allows you to put multiple things on per location and so on and so forth. I can put 15 different kinds of blush on her to create whatever this beautiful look is. Another cool feature of NRAAS Master Controller is the ability to use what is called a blacklist. If you know what that word means in general, it basically means to bar someone from entering somewhere or doing something, and it's much of the same way in The Sims 3. So there are 2 versions of blacklisting. The first one, it comes with NRAAS Master Controller. So again, you come down to the 3 dots, right click on it, and there'll be a button here that says blacklist. If you use a different NRAAS mod, if you're scoping around on the internet and you see NRAAS Stressor, this feature is also in there. At any rate, I am just showing the one that comes with NRAAS Master Controller. And in order to use the blacklist, what you can do, so this would be for something like if you want to remove a hair, for example, a CC hair that you don't want to appear in your game, but you can't find it in your downloads folder, this would be a kind of example that you could do there. No shade to the creator, I'm just showing how this works. So if we go to a hair that I maybe don't like, and I hold down Control and right click on the hair, it will actually blacklist it. My whole game freezes up for a second when it adds it to said blacklist. But if I scroll down to wherever that hair was, if we just look in this left category, it was like around this section, you can see that hair is no longer here. If I go back down to these 3 dots and I open up the blacklist, you can see it now has a value of 1 in my blacklist. And if I accidentally clicked on a hair or something, if I accidentally control clicked on it, you can of course clear that blacklist and the hair will return back to show up in your catalog. I think I have to reload it. So if I reload it now and go all the way back down to where I was before, to wherever that hair was right here, you can see it has returned. So you can use this not just on hair, you can use it on any sort of CC clothing. I actually don't know if it works on like the clothes from EA Pack, so you can try that out right now. So I'm gonna just control right click and it does. So good to know. Also, you can get rid of these clothes, by the way. If you go under here and it says hide by pack, you can actually choose to hide some of these from the packs that you don't want. So you would just turn these to true, whatever clothing you don't want to see in cast. So you don't have to manually go through your blacklist and blacklist one by one of every single one of these expansion pack clothes. After you've been playing in a town for a little while, you may notice that it starts to get laggy, sims will start to get stuck. It may not just run as smooth as it originally did way back when you started the game. And we can actually not totally fix this, but help this problem. If we go to the town hall here, when we have NRAAS Master Controller in our game, we go to NRAAS Master Controller and we go under town here. There is a really handy feature called Reset Everything. This will reset all the sims in town, all the objects. It will put everyone back on their front doorstep. So when you do this, you want to make sure you're doing it at nighttime when sims aren't at work, because it will boot them from their rabbit hole job or reset them. I like to do this when all my sims are sleeping, and it does reset all of their motives as well. So that's maybe why you would want to do this at nighttime. And you can see here, when I do this reset everything, I'm getting some script errors from NRAAS Master Controller. You may also notice that on the UI down here, my money is disappearing, my sims portraits are disappearing. This is completely fine, completely normal. I'm just gonna let this go and I will be back when it finishes. Okay, after about a minute or so, I got this notification that says reset everything, 17,000 objects have been reset. And as you can see, my UI, my sims and my money is missing. You can just fix this by clicking on another sim and it will all reappear. In the top right corner, I have some script errors, most of which are related to this sim right here. He is a plant sim. As you can see, by the way, all the sims are on their front doorstep, and their motives are reset. So this is not great to do. If I unpause my game here, you can see really that the motives are now all askew. But anyway, there are 2 things you can do whenever you get a script error in The Sims 3 relating to NRAAS. First of all, I really want to applaud the NRAAS moderators because they are on top of all of the bug reports. If we go to any mod page, we can go to the discussions tab, which is where simmers like you and me can post any reports we get in our game. If you didn't know, whenever you get one of these messages, it actually spits out a log in your documents folder. So you can see here, I have a bunch of these. It is currently 10:36 a.m. and this report was created at 10:31. So this is the one that y'all are seeing in the top right of my game. If I open this, and I can just open it with Microsoft Edge here, I'm gonna drag it over so y'all can see it. I know this looks crazy, but this is the XML of the error that you saw in your game. Now, to a lot of us, this is not going to mean anything. So if we go to the NRAAS Master Controller website, you can create a script error post if you're concerned about this correction log. And one of the moderators will actually tell you how you can amend this problem, if it's a mod conflict, if it's something wrong in your game, something you should remove, so on and so forth. This will require you to make an account, but if we go here to new topic, you can post your log or your script error, and you can just type like master controller error, and then you would then post the log and whatever other information. You can see other examples of script errors. For example, here's one that another person submitted. So you can get a little glimpse, and a moderator will tell you what all of this means if you are concerned. At any rate, most of these script errors you'll get are harmless. It was just the game correcting things, notifying you that it corrected things. Sometimes when you do a master controller total town reset, especially when you have a plant sim, for whatever reason it spits you out an error. You can see all these errors are just related to him, so I think it has something to do with that, and I'm not concerned, so we're all good here. This next NRAAS trick I have for you requires you to have NRAAS Master Controller and NRAAS Master Controller Cheats module, and I did find this trick from Cass Sim on Tumblr, so thank you to them in advance. But this will allow you to cleanse the inventory of inactive sims. Sometimes after a long time of playing in one town, sims get things stuck in their inventory like books and cars and just miscellaneous junk. So we want to remove that and clean it. So if we go to Master Controller now, the Town Hall, we go under Town, we go to Object Stats, and then we go to Sim. This brings up all of the junk that your sims in town have in their inventory. So you want to be careful when you go ahead and do this, because it could cause you, if you click the wrong thing or you flush the wrong thing, it could cause you to lose some stuff in your sims' inventory that you may not be able to get back. For example, you can click on these cars here, and these will cleanse all of the cars. It'll flush them from the town. So there's currently 5 in my town. I'm going to just flush all of them, which is going to delete all of them. And it says it flushed 5 objects. So sims in town no longer have those inventory items. I do also want to note that after a reset everything, a total town reset, which I just showed how to do before this, it will move all of the sims' items that were in their inventory to the family inventory. So you may want to do this before you do a reset everything total town reset. I'm not sure when we do that process, the delete inventory items, the process that I just showed. I don't know if the game has access to those family inventory objects. I'm not exactly sure. I guess we can kind of play test it here. Let me try and delete all of these books, and we'll see if it deletes it from the family inventory. So you can see that it flushed 11 objects. And no. Okay, so now we know that you want to do the deletion process before, because the family inventory objects, they do not get touched when you try and flush them via NRAAS Master Controller. I know another way to do this process is to go back to Master Controller. If we go under Household, you can go Sell Item, and this will bring up the family inventories. So if I go down to my household, which is called the Earthsong household, this brings up all of those objects that y'all just saw in the family inventory. So yeah, that is how you would delete the inactive families family inventory, and you'll actually get compensated for those items. If we do the deletion method, your sims don't get any money for them. This process, if you use other NRAAS mods, is going to be like a little advanced section. If you use the mod called NRAAS Story Progression, there's an add-on module for NRAAS Story Progression called NRAAS Money, which will actually do what I just said automatically. It sells all of the inventory management stuff, so your sims, they don't get cluttered inventories, which is interesting because a lot of people think of story progression as lagging and bogging down their game. It is quite resource intensive. It basically simulates the entire town for you, gives sims jobs, promotions, and hobbies, and skills, and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of things going on if you do use NRAAS story progression. I have a video solely dedicated to NRAAS story progression. If you want me to go further in depth on that, I've already done that. But at any rate, it's interesting because this actually helps manage and clean up their inventory, so that's pretty cool. And NRAAS Story Progression extra modules, so a different one than the money module I was just talking about, has a built-in feature called Put Away Books in Inventory, which if you have this, it puts away all of the books in the bookshelf in the Sims' house. So if they're not being sold, they'll at least put them away in a bookshelf. So that was a lot of information thrown at y'all at once. If you don't want to do this the manual way with the method I just showed you, story progression will automate those processes, which is pretty cool. Do all that stuff in the background. Last but not least, the final master controller trick I have for you that can improve gameplay performance is deleting some of the service sims and animals as well. Helps cut down on the town population, and this is by Nova Park here on Tumblr. So once again, going to master controller under the town hall, if we go to town and then down here to this interestingly named button called Total Annihilation, if we click on it, this brings up a variety of categories. We are going to be focusing on 2 categories today, which are animal and service. If we look under here, I have 121 service sims. I don't know why Sims 3 does this, but it overspawns the amount of service sims you need in your town for whatever reason. So if I click on those 2 categories and hit the check mark on here, it is going to bring up all of those sims. Mine is taking a minute because there is just an insane amount of sims in this town. And you can see it has things like the aliens in town. These are all the service sims. These are all the household pets that sims have. All of that. So you can really see there's quite a bit in here. I'm going to hit all on here because this will just respawn service sims if it needs them. So again, you might want to do this during the nighttime when like not a lot is going on in your game, because it, as you can see, it is repopulating those merchants and all of those sims and everything like that. So now if we go back under master controller, town, total annihilation, you can see I have 2 animals and the service sims are already up to 16 because it's filling those lots that need the service sims and those services like the maid service, butler service, so on and so forth. So this can help cut down on population. I don't know why I had almost 200 service sims before, but you can do this like once a sim week because it tends to balloon quite quickly. And just a note too, if you are going to delete animals, be careful you do not delete any that are in your household. It is easy to accidentally click the all button and delete the ones that are in your household. So make sure if you're clicking all, you're okay with the ones in your household being deleted. The next NRAAS mod that I would say is absolutely crucial for a smooth game is called NRAAS Overwatch. A lot of people dislike this mod because it shoots you a nightly notification once it does its cleaning. However, if we go under Overwatch on our town hall here and go to settings, we can turn off the display nightly notification if we set that to false, and it will no longer give you that message. This mod does a lot of stuff. Primarily it relates to cleaning. A lot of cleaning goes on with this mod. Things like turning off stereos every night, turning off televisions, checking if there's any stuck sims. You can stop pet adoption and a bunch of other stuff. You can disable full moon lighting, that weird green tint that your game gets. You can delete all magical gnomes. You can cleanse the dead, clean up vehicles hourly, clean up vehicles in general, clean up skill modifiers, clean up situations, relationships, outfits, laundromat, inventory, so on and so forth. This mod does a lot of in the background cleaning. By default, the default of this set alarm hour is set to 3, which means 3 AM in the game. So if you have this mod installed, you may get a lag spike at 3 AM. Don't be alarmed, that's just the game doing its cleaning. However, if you use another mod, which we will talk about later, that really helps with lag and smoothness and helps you get a smooth game, called Similar 90s Core Fixes, you need to set the alarm hour to any other hour but 3. I like 5 AM because it's still when my sims are asleep and they're not at work yet, but you can choose whatever hour you want if you are using that mod that we will talk about later. The next mod sounds a little counterintuitive if you are well aware of what it does and who she is, but this is going to be about NRAAS story progression. I know, hear me out before you start typing in the comment section, Maddie, this game makes my game so laggy, da da da. Hear me out really quick. If you don't know why people may be throwing a fit that I say NRAAS story progression can help smooth out your game, it's because it does a lot. This single mod does a lot. I talked about it earlier. If you're unaware of what this does, this mod will simulate your entire town to make them feel more alive, and it overhauls EA's native Sims 3 story progression and cranks it up times 1,000. It has Sims move in and out of households, has Sims have babies, get married, break up, gain skills, advance in their jobs, and all of this is supposed to be in native Sims 3 story progression, but I find that A, it either doesn't work or it breaks after a while, or B, it's just so slow to do anything that I never see any progression, hence NRAAS story progression. Okay, now that you can see why people are probably throwing a fit about me putting this in this section, there are two settings in here that I think people may not know about that can actually help with lag. If you're playing with this anyway, you might as well change those two settings. The first one is going to be under general options in NRAAS story progression. We're gonna go down to Sims, and then there is this really hidden button called maximum residence. And wow, it took me years to actually know that this was a thing and that this was in here. But this allows you to put a cap on the amount of Sims you have in town. You can also set to 0 for unlimited if you want your game to crash, but I do 150, which I think is default. Of course, you can set this to 100, 75, so on and so forth. I think how this works, if you already have 150 Sims in your town, which by the way, you can always check your demographics of your town. If you go under master controller, and then if you go to demographics, you can find like a population demographic, and it will bring up like all the Sims in town. So I have 72 residents right now. I probably could cap that number under NRAAS story progression to like 100 and it'd be fine. This is something obviously you would want to do early on in your game before your town starts ballooning, because that happens quite quickly. If your town demographic is already over 150 or whatever value you've put in here, I think Sims will stop having babies and whatever, and Sims will stop spawning. So just be aware of that your town may have a halted progression if this cap is already exceeded. And of course, I'm ignoring this as well, but you can do the same with cats, dogs, little dogs, horses, so on and so forth. You can cap the amount of residents of each of these animals and humans as well. Okay, the second thing I'm gonna say, if you're already planning on using NRAAS story progression, I personally, this is a non-negotiable in my game. I have to use this mod because this allows me to really enjoy the town and feel like the town is alive. If you're going to be using this mod anyway, you might as well adjust the notifications you get. If you've ever tried NRAAS story progression and you have not watched a video on how to set it up, you will notice you get a massive amount of notifications to the point where it's annoying to have to clear all them out. So in order to change that, you want to go under general options here, and you can turn all stories, which is going to be all of these options here. This all stories button encapsulates all these options. So I have all of these set to yes, I want all stories, but then I go under ones that I know specifically spam a lot of notifications, like careers, and I put them on custom under here. So this is just affecting that careers button if you change it under one of these, and this takes precedence over whatever button or whatever you have set up here, whatever this value is. So under careers, I only want to hear stories about my blood relatives, about my friends, and my romantic and my spouses if I'm not moved in with them. So now in my game, all I'm going to get in relation to career messages from NRAAS story progression is things about all of these categories: blood, friends, romantic, and spouses. Another category that tends to spam a lot is skills, and I do that same thing under here: blood, friends, romantic, and spouses. And you can just really go through here and fine tune the notifications that you want to receive in relation to all the Sims in town. The next mod I'll speak briefly about is called NRAAS Errortrap, and if we try to go to our city hall and find it under the NRAAS button like we have with every other mod I previously talked about, you'll see there's nothing here. There's nothing to click, and that's because NRAAS Errortrap doesn't have a setting. It just catches corruption basically and pushes a notification to your documents folder so you can have the XML package and then detect whatever the issue is. So here's the XML. I can open it up with Microsoft Edge, and there we go. I got a script error on my plant sim Basil that we saw earlier. And you can either upload these to the NRAAS forum to get more help, or you can just delete them from this folder. It won't do anything. Many people will get upset that they keep seeing NRAAS script errors and error traps, and they'll end up taking it out of their game. And that actually does more harm than it does good, because then you are letting that error go unchecked and you will not know about it, because The Sims 3 doesn't have an error trap like system built into the game. It will just close right to your desktop. At least with this way, even if you do get a bunch of error trap notifications, you can detect and potentially find out whatever is causing the error trap notification to go off. The next mod I have here is called NRAAS GoHere, and it fixes a lot of issues and bugs regarding routing in The Sims 3. Natively in The Sims 3, routing is not great. Sims tend to get stuck a lot, and this mod aims to correct a lot of those issues. Of course, you can access the NRAAS GoHere menu, and I do have some things in here changed, so if you want to pause the video and copy my settings, you are more free to do so. More than free to do so. Okay, if I can speak properly. The biggest thing I like about NRAAS GoHere is it allows you to stack the GoHere interaction in the queue. So if I have my sim here, natively in The Sims 3, you cannot stack the walking when your sim walks like this. It will cancel it out and prioritize the most recently queued up one. So that's one of the cool things you can do with NRAAS GoHere, is you can tell your sim to go a million different places and stack them up in the queue. It also makes inactive sims, so that is sims outside of your household, less likely to just randomly go home. Though I've noticed when I'm having outings with my sims, sometimes they still leave, the guests still leave, which is kind of annoying, but is what it is. It's just Sims 3. The mod also writes that it restores haunting ghosts in the graveyard, which I didn't know was an issue in The Sims 3. I thought that the ghosts normally haunted in the graveyard. Maybe I'm thinking of something else, but pretty cool. And then the last feature that it touts is it does fix common routing errors and adds a robust set of door locking features, which I didn't know that came from this mod, but pretty cool. Helps with a lot of routing. I use this primarily for like horses, because if you've ever played The Sims 3, horses have some of the worst routing I have ever seen in a game. They need so much space to move, they need so much space to maneuver around the space, and I find that NRAAS GoHere really helps with that. Another mod that I'll just throw in here just to bring it to your attention is called NRAAS Traffic. It adds the late night traffic manager to suburban worlds, providing the fake taxi traffic and the food truck functionality. It also alters the behavior of Pet's ice cream truck. And finally, the mod can be used to alter some of the general car routing tuning available in the mod, allowing you to change the values on a save by save basis. Has a lot to do with deleting like inactive cars. There are, I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but there are fake taxis that go around at nighttime in The Sims 3 for whatever reason. So this will help remove those from your game. Just want to bring it to your attention. I don't personally have it in my game, but it can also be helping with lag, I suppose, because it is removing some things. Last but not least, I have one last NRAAS mod that really, this one I probably should have put in the beginning, but whatever. For you people that watch to the end of the section, you get to know about it, but it is NRAAS Register. Wherever she is, there she is. There's two things in here that I do change. First one is animal control. This controls how many deers, raccoons, stray cats, stray dogs, unicorns, and wild horses spawn in your town. As I mentioned in the NRAAS GoHere section, horses have some of the worst routing I've ever seen in a Sims game, so I disabled them completely because I tend to find that when I leave them on, I get a lot of script errors saying that they were reset or that they couldn't move or they got themselves where they were stuck. So I turn those off, and I do the same with some of the other ones. I think I turn stray cats and stray dogs off completely, so I won't have any more strays in the world, which is kind of sad, but it helps with routing, helps with lag. It's one less animal that my game has to account for. I leave unicorns on just for, you know, gameplay potential, I guess. I leave deer and raccoons on, but you can set those up however you want in here. This does not take away any that are currently in your world. You would have to go through the NRAAS Total Annihilation and NRAAS Master Controller, as I showed earlier. This just prevents them from further spawning. Next, I go down to the tourist section, and I like the idea of tourists. I think it's really cool that you can have foreign sims visiting your town from the worlds, the world adventure worlds. However, I don't like the fact that it spawns just random sims. The tourists that visit your Sims 3 world are not ones that you can actually go back to whatever world they're from. Say it's an Egyptian tourist and you go back to Egypt, you cannot find that specific sim in that world. It's because the process is convoluted and it spawns a randomly generated sim rather than pulling a actual resident from, say, Egypt or China or Paris or France or whatever it is. So I don't like that. So I turn tourists off, and that's one less sim my game has to account for. And I guess the EA default number is 10, which is kind of crazy. You can have up to 10 tourists in your game at a time, but that's personal preference. If you like tourists, then so be it. But those are all my NRAAS settings that I use to really help with the lag in my game. It's not an end all be all solution, but the settings that I showed, if you're going to play with NRAAS mods anyway, you might as well tweak them to be optimal and run the best. Rapid fire mods that help with lag. The first mod I have is the no or fewer automatic memories. If you've ever played The Sims 3 before, you know that Sims get a memory for just about everything. If they visit the park, they get a memory. If they visit an art gallery, they get a memory. If they visit the graveyard, they get a memory. These memories are not really impactful to the Sims life, and on top of that, they also consume quite a bit of space because every single time your sim does one of these memories, it stores it in the game. So what this mod does is it basically removes memories, or allows you to also fine-tune which memories you want a sim to earn. So this will be things like really important events in a sim's life, like getting married or moving or things like that. Not things as simple as visiting a park or going to a graveyard. This mod is a must if you play The Sims 3 Island Paradise. As you may know, NPCs in The Sims 3 Island Paradise will move their houseboats all by themselves. This causes quite a bit of lag considering the routing that the game has to perform when a NPC or an inactive sim is moving said houseboat. So what this mod does is it reduces or removes the lag caused by houseboats by removing the autonomous control of inactive sims moving them around. So inactive sims houseboats will stay docked. Obviously you can still move your own sim's houseboat. This just makes it so sims you're not actively playing with cannot move them around. This next mod requires you to have an account as it's hosted on the Sims Asylum, but it is called Faster Loading and Moving of Elevators. This requires the Late Night expansion pack. This mod fixes the problem with Sims taking too long for other Sims to get into elevators in order for the elevator to move to the selected floor. The next mod, additional entry and exit routing slots to reduce door crowding for university and schools, is a must. If you've played this game before, you know that teens and children will crowd around entrances, and this makes it so the rabbit hole buildings that are schools and universities have additional exit and entry doors, so students won't crowd. The next mod is also hosted on Sims Asylum, just like one of the previous ones was, so it will require you to have an account, but it is called Route Fix V9 Mods for flavors. This mod reduces the amount of time Sims stand around trying to figure out where they're going or checking for obstacles. Basically just helps with routing and moving Sims around quicker. There are several iterations of this mod on the post, so if you get overwhelmed and don't know which one to choose, the one I use in my game is Route Fix Flavor 4 V9. Make sure that you extract this mod as it is a .rar file, which means you'll have to unpack it and extract the actual .package file. One of my favorite fix mods is Similar 90s Gameplay Core Mod. This mod fixes things that you may have never even thought about. In fact, it has 197 updates to it, and it's still being updated as we speak. As Similar 90 finds more glitchy things in the game, they go back and fix this mod. Some other fixes are things like Bonehilda now being able to take care of children and toddlers correctly. Children and teens can now attend school while grounded, so it doesn't recognize it as them sneaking out anymore. Butlers will now do their jobs. There's no more pie selection menu lag. This also fixes pudding face, which is a widespread problem of newly generated Sims having all of their facial presets set to 0 so they look like a default sim. It fixes NPC sims all using the sloppy jalopy as their travel card, no matter their household funds. I should also mention this mod is not compatible with NRAAS Mods, so you have to use it at your own risk. I've been using it for over a year now and I have not experienced any issues with it. If you also use NRAAS Overwatch, you do need to change the set alarm time to any other time but 3 a.m. We talked about this in the NRAAS section of this video. I set mine to 5 a.m. because this mod also does its cleaning at 3 a.m. and you don't want them to overlap. The next fixed mod I use is on Sims Asylum, so you will need an account, but it's called Sit on More Comfy Objects and Better Routing for Game Objects. This mod will have Sims choose to sit with other Sims on the couch to eat or on nearby chairs if there are no other Sims at a table. Sims will choose to sit at the nearest table or counter, which is closest to the place where the food is located. The last mod I wanted to mention is called No Route Fail and No Tapping Animations Mods. And it does exactly what it says. Sims will no longer have an animation when they can't get to a route, and they also won't tap their foot waiting to move. Cleaning out unnecessary files. In our Sims 3 Electronic Arts Documents folder, there are a ton of files we can actually delete in here that will just regenerate the next time you play the game. These files, if you watch the Regul save cleaner part of this video, will also be deleted if you check them on here, or you can just manually do it yourself. These files are CAS part catch, compositor catch, script catch, sim compositor catch, and social catch. If we delete these, the next time we launch our game, they will regenerate. In addition, if we go into the DC catch folder, we can delete any file that has the .temp extension, and we can also delete missingdeps.idx. I don't have any files that have the .temp extension, so I'm just going to delete missingdeps.idx. You don't want to delete any of the .dbc files because these correlate to the downloads you have on your Sims 3 launcher. Last but not least, if we go back to our Sims 3 documents folder, we can go into a folder called DC Backup. Now, every single time you download something on your Sims 3 launcher, a file is spit out here, and as you can see, the names are very random. What we can do is we can hit Ctrl+A, and we want to make sure we uncheck when we do this CC merged. Every file in this folder but CC merged can be deleted. As you can see, I have 221 items in this folder, and they do take up quite a bit of space just to how much there is. If you've never done this before, you probably have a lot of stuff to delete. Settings menu stuff. It's no secret that the lower you have your graphics, the better it's probably going to run. But graphics are non-negotiable for me. I like the way my Sims game looks when I have everything on high. I also use reshade too, which can be quite taxing on my game. That's why my game is so bright, by the way. It's because I have reshade. I'm flickering it on and off here. With that said though, I have everything on high. However, there is some other things too, like disabling shop mode and disabling interactive loading screens, and you can also disable lessons, which may also help with performance. In addition, disabling online notifications if you don't use the Sims Exchange like I do can all potentially increase the performance of your game, because the less internet connectivity you have, the less the Sims needs to load. CC Magic. The last thing I wanted to mention for this video is CC Magic. CC Magic is a way that you can compress all of your custom content. So this is things like shoes and clothes and hair and accessories. All this stuff can be merged together, which actually will really help with load times and the amount of files you have in your Sims 3 documents folder. I don't want to take any thunder away from a creator who has already made a really great video. This video is by Florida, a fellow Sims 3 YouTuber, and she has a really great video going in depth of how to use CC Magic. She can show you guys how to do it in way better words and much better brevity than I can here, so I will leave a card in the top right of where you can check out this video of how to merge CC yourself. Additional notes. If you've previously watched my fix guides before, I wanted to give a couple of additional notes of why some things were left out or why I didn't include certain things in this video. In my first ultimate fix guide, I mentioned world fixes. These world fixes are by Ella Charmed. You may wonder, why aren't they included in this guide? A member of my community on my Discord actually let me know that some of these world fix files, most notably ones that come with World Adventures, have some corrupted data and actually completely break the tombs in the World Adventures worlds. They have a lot of good routing fixes, but worlds with ghosts and mummies and simbots seem to have corrupted data. This is due to the Create a World tool having a bug where saving a world with ghosts, mummies, or simbots in it will corrupt these sims data, which can lead to save game corruption and errors. So that's why I left them out of this video. In addition, in my first fix guide, I was changing RAM values and allowing more RAM usage. The Sims 3 is a 32-bit program, and there's actually no way to allow the game to use more RAM. The Sims limit is 4 gigabytes, and that's what it is. There's unfortunately no way to make it more than that, which is something I didn't know in my first video. The game also already had a large address aware patch dating all the way back from the late night patch, which already allowed more RAM usage. So as it is, this is as good as it's gonna get. The game cannot use any more RAM than is already in the game. That is it. Those are all of my Sims 3 fixes that I use in order to get a smooth game. I hope you all enjoyed. I'm sorry it was so long. I do try to over-explain things and flesh them out in case everyone is not totally tech savvy when watching this video. Thank you all so much for watching. I will catch you all in the next one, and peace out.